You must know what a jump scare is. If you don't, 3, 2, 1. See, this is what everyone thinks about when you think about jump scares. Something loud and fast that just gets thrown at your face. Were you scared? I bet you didn't. Maybe some guys did, but for the most of you, you saw it coming and unsensibilized about it. But could you consider this a screamer? Or was this one? Oh wait, I can't show you this one just yet, but we'll talk about it later. I've got some other kinds that seems that hasn't been used very often. Yet they use the same function and are still very scary. Done wrong, it scares no one. It can be really bad for most of the game, or a film if you prefer. I'm mostly going to support my points with this game because I need to know what to do for mine. Horror films don't really attract me that much anyway. But the point is that having something like when you have your dad behind a corner and just goes boo, you weren't afraid, you're just surprised. A good screamer is something you use to relieve tension. One tool used to scare us, combined with all sorts of other stuff that can use our own brain against us to make us shit our pants. But the thing is, I think that it isn't the only way to create fear. I mean, there's a handful of ways to do it that I'll explain later, but for screamers, they don't have to be fast and loud. I know, shocking, right? You're used to seeing those kind of screamers, and now it just doesn't really scare that much anymore. That's why I've seen lately some other kind of screamers. Games like FNAF 4 or analog horror like The Obelisk have been trying to do some things that I find pretty interesting. I put them in two categories: the slow ones, the unnerving ones, and another kind I'm going to talk about later. I'm sure you know about FNAF and how people have used way too much of the screamers. Well, when you have oversaturation with this, you go in and try this kind of stuff on the players. See, this isn't a loud nor a fast flushing thing that jumps at your face. It really does feel unnerving and uncomfortable. I really find this much more interesting than what we are used to see. When you've seen really cheap screamers that are so predictable it doesn't scare you anymore, but they were there to hide how bad the rest of the horror aspect of the game was. The entire horror aspect has been supposed on that cheap jump scare. But that isn't how you make horror in my opinion. If you take examples of what I consider to be the best horror games, PD does have screamers, but it's like one of the many tools they use to create fear. It uses at advantage the fear of the unknown, and there you have a big lack of information of where you are. A house, a mansion, an apartment? Well, at least it's somewhere inside, and there's not known threat, just you go through a corridor that cycles again and again and again and again, with some changes here and there. It makes you feel uncomfortable with this atmosphere. You know something happened here, but you don't know what nor why. Stuff that is incredible starts happening. You hear some sounds that have no trustful emission. All that is making your brain fill in the blanks to create something that isn't there, making you anticipate what could be lurking here while nothing is there. And then you have a screamer. But it isn't finished. You still haven't seen the credit rolls, so there must still be something here. So you go back and try to understand what to do, because there is no clear objective. This game does not tell you what to do. When a games you're supposed to have an objective, you get the generator on, collect the paper, escape, move, right. Here, nothing. You just pop, and no one tells you nothing, you must just figure it out all by yourself. But it doesn't have to be that extreme. Another way is very famous in Ironlung, big spoilers. It builds up tension because you have no info whatsoever on what's going on outside. You just get some few pictures on what's outside while you hear something that turns around. To finish the game with an enormous screamer. I know it doesn't really fit in what I was talking about, but it shows how a screamer is well used. You have to build up tension with what is going on to release a bit of tension with the screamer. Some games even release the entire tension. For that, I don't know at all if it's good or not, but that it still works to make a game terrifying. Now, I do want to talk about the other kind of screamers I saw. The slow ones. So that's when you can feel something is going to happen, but you don't know what or when. It's anticipating what is going to show up or happen in front of you. But nothing is actually happening yet. I know it seems a lot like when you have safe rooms where you create fear about anticipation or what would happen next, but here it's a bit more direct, like you see the sweat, but it isn't moving, or it's moving really slowly and you can't do anything about it. You are overpowered over what is going for you. You can't do anything. Maybe it's that you can't move, or there isn't anywhere that you can go to protect yourself from it. Or maybe you see it arriving at high speed and you can't do anything about it. I think the most important thing is that you stay nearly on path, like a baby that needs attention from parents. But this time the parents are going to kill you if you just don't stay there not knowing what to do, because you can't do anything. I haven't seen this kind of jump scares very often. There's the obelisk, and maybe I consider a clip from an old video of Subliminal with a Pinterest video I saw a long time ago while I was taking some references for 3D sculpting. But it seems like this one hasn't been used as much. See, it does feel kind of unnerving, and the first time I see it, it did scare me as much as jumpscare did. I really do like those kind. It feels much more unnerving and it takes its time. You see it, but the threat is overpowering you and it knows it, so it comes and it takes its time. Plus, this kind of feels much more real, like the thing is there, coming for you, and it's unstoppable. As if you were seeing a car arriving towards you and you couldn't do anything because it's too fast to dodge but slow enough to see it coming. It feels much more like it would be something that could happen. Therefore, it feels much more scary. Well, even if there's a problem with this, it isn't that much in the end.
Yara?
Yeah.
Don't open the door!
See? Everything's okay.
But when you were watching and know what is arriving, it isn't scary anymore. The same as classic jump scares in a way. Well, it isn't that much of a problem, I think. In our game, you aren't supposed to see that often entities because of how big the liminal spaces are. So when you'll see one, it will be an event of its own, but won't be the focus. As I said in the explanation of the game video, the entities will push the narrative, but they won't be the focus point, as of what King Pixel did. But there's still one left that I really want to talk about. The censored ones. Well, that's what I call them, but it fits them really well. I don't know if you saw a video of a place that never existed. If you didn't, go check it out, it's really great. But spoilers, there's a moment where we feel like we are supposed to get a relief of tension, like with all of what happened we feel like there's gonna be finally something in front of us that we're gonna able to see. Nothing but that. Then the POV of the guy we're following just freezes. We don't know what's there, what is in front of him, just for him to flee, running in the opposite direction. See, this is one of the best ways to make use of imagination to create fear. Fear of the unknown. And I think this can be something really terrifying. But of course, it has the inconvenience of having to be logic in a way for it to be a part of the world. So you must have a reason for it to happen. Using a POV of a camera is the best solution, I think. But VHS cameras has also been overused. It's an aesthetic that people use way too much. I found one in my game, maybe you've already recognized it, but if you want to know, you can have a look at our video to explain in detail what this game is all going to be about. You can have a look just here.